Here's a question for the both of you. I'm just kind of curious. The audition experience in '94.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys get a lot of hands that show up to that audition, or
I don't remember that audition.
you don't remember it?
I don't know. Because I mean, we had like Aaron Moline, Troy Hall. We had Roger Ladd come up from Southern California.
Yeah.
Was everybody in person? Like, did everybody show up, or were there like some video?
Yeah. No, that was the individual auditions that I still do today, where they walk in the room. But this is different now. But back then, the whole staff was in the room, and there was a snare drum set up, and a set of tenors, and a bass drum set up, and you'd walk behind the drum of your choice, and we'd put you through the ringers and play, about 10, 15 minutes of stuff, and then next, wait outside, we'll let you know. And that was also the Sean Vega audition that year on that, and on snare originally.
Yep. Yeah. And it was like, there was a little bit of switching of positions that went on.
Yeah, him and Ike.
Yep.
Him and Ike Jackson. Yeah, Ike was on tenors originally, and Sean was on bass drum, and Sean moved in with the tenor guys because we were going 3 times a week back then. He moved in with the tenor guys, and he learned all the tenor stuff. And I showed up to a rehearsal one day, and all of a sudden I look, and Ike was having problems on tenor. And I remember walked in, and all of a sudden Ike's on the bass drum where Sean was, and Sean's on tenors. And I remember looking at them, and I go, "This better be good." And they said, "It's much better." And I go, "Let's go."
my favorite is Carlos Maldonado on bottom bass, because that guy had like the hands to pretty much play snare anywhere else.
Yeah.
And you see him there thumping the bottom bass, and little did people know that he had snare hands.
Didn't he come in late though?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
The snare line was full by the time he showed up. Yeah.
The next year there, he's in the middle of the snare line, and
Yeah, Carlos had hands.
oh yeah.
So 95.
Wait, you got to talk about monkey drumming.
Oh yeah.
I do you remember?
Oh boy, do I remember.
Do you remember I walked in on you writing it?
I don't remember that.
Yes. Okay. Bingo hall.
Uh-oh.
And I walk in, and I look at you doing something on the computer, I guess. And it was just the patterns written out. Dot, dot, dot,
Right,
dot, dot,
right,
dot.
right.
And I was like, "What's this?" And you were like, "This is either going to be really dumb or really cool." And we hated it. I remember we hated it.
I remember the first time you guys played it, you're going, "This is our percussion feature?"
This
Are
sounds
you
like
kidding?
Troy or Ty probably said like, "This sounds like 8 on a hand. What are we doing?"
Yeah, I remember it well. And I remember the first time we're trying to run it with, it might have been just the snares at the time. I'm going higher. No, guys, higher. I go, "Roger, raise your arm as high as you can." I'm going, and he puts his, 6'4", his arms way up there. I'm going, "Guys, that's the lowest height we need to see right now." Everybody, you need to be going crazy here. The drums need to be twisted on your body. I mean, you need to be playing as high as possible. And you're all going, "What the hell is this?" You guys were so pissed.
And who would have known, that become one of the more iconic moments of that show.
Well, the thing I always like to say is, because we were good, so then you had, essentially the activity looking at us, right? And I will tell you that, like when I would teach like marching band, in the off season, when I would see high school lines trying to do that, I was just like, "I'm sorry."
I apologize to so many band directors because every drum line in the high school world wanted to do the monkey drumming, and it was out of character for whatever their little marching band show was. But it was every drum line had to do it.
My favorite part to this day is there's like a picture of the mid monkey drumming, and it'll get posted every once in a while, and you see people get triggered who don't know what it is. "Oh my God, they look dirty. Their hands look dirty," and it's like you don't even know what you're talking about. But
Yeah.
Well, that was Glide had the concept. He goes, and he didn't know what to do. He's going, I see sticks flying around, but you hear a constant rhythm, is what he told me. And I always try to think outside the box. I go, "That's cool. We got to figure that out." And so I literally just started scratching stuff on paper, trying to figure something out. And when we figured out 9 snares, we can divide it 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Except we had to change Roger Ladd's part because he couldn't figure it out. Remember, he had his own special part.
I remember. Yeah, I do remember that.
And It wasn't, and I do remember thinking this is either going to be really cool or this is stupid, and we just got to do something else. I remember thinking that for the first couple of weeks we had it, until the first time we played it, and the horns were walking over to do ensemble with us at the end of the court by the hall back in the day. We walked down at those courts, so we're in the middle of the street there, and we're rehearsing it as the horn line's walking up, and you guys get to the monkey drumming part. The horn line freaks out. That's the first time they've seen it, and they're going crazy. And I'm going, all right, I think we got something. Our own people like it. That's a good thing.
Well, and that, I mean, that's actually really interesting because part of the success of that line was that impact, and like being able to, have something that non-drummers could appreciate, like grandma sitting in the seats, being like, oh, that's really interesting what they're doing. And it kind of speaks to like what you said earlier about wanting to try something new, wanting to introduce something new, whether it be something that looked new or sounded new.
Always.
And it's hit and miss, but when you can, I mean, there's an argument that we wouldn't have stood out as much as we did unless we did that particular part.
Really? That's interesting.
Well,
yeah, sure.
There were clean lines, were, and all of that stuff. But I think it was basically like we were checking off every box.
Yeah. That was, exactly. That's exactly what we were doing.
The Formica part too. That's kind of set you guys apart.
The flamenco section.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
I was the one who brought day dance to the table for the design because we're trying to do this whole Spanish, obviously influential, and I love this piece. And I had this concept going, the snares could play on something that sounds like a flamenco dancer, and so we actually talked about that. That was actually brought up in the 2019 show. That's where the shoes on the table came from. Originally, it was going to be a flamenco thing, a la '94, with the snares and the tenors. I was going to have this one sheet over the whole tenors, and they were just going to be doing regular tenor moves, but it was going to be the same pitch because it was going to be this whole piece of plastic, just to do something different. But that got morphed into the shoes on the stuff. So, but yeah, that came back from the '94 vision of something different, something new. So we'll get back to that first tour in '94.
Okay, let's go.
We fly back to the East Coast. Have no idea what's going to happen. Pre-internet, you don't know what other drum corps are doing until you get in the same city with them. And I remember hearing stories, hearing rumors, whatever. But do you remember the last show we had with Teddy Nicolaris on the field? Or it might have been the first show. I think it was the first show. We had the first show that we were going up against cadets, and we were staying at the school where the show was. And Teddy Nicolaris was a drum judge at the time, and I've known Teddy. I've been in the activity a long time already, so I knew all these guys pretty well, and we would party after shows, and he's a good guy. I walked down to the stadium before the show, and the judges are there, and he's down on the track by his table, and I go, Teddy, so I'm saying hi to him, and I go, dude, you got to do me a favor tonight. And he goes, what's that? And I go, the drum line's really good. I go, these guys, it's going to be epic at the end of the season, And I'm bullshitting a little bit. I'm trying to pump them up a little bit. I go, but I need you to help us. And he goes, what do you need? I go, I need an FU at the end of the show from you. And not FU, but the word you. I go, can you say that on the tape for me? And he goes, what do you mean? I go, well, it ends with this big giant heartbeat, and they're playing it really well. And I want you to get upset that you can't find any errors and just yell at them and say that to them and turn the tape off. And he did. And I remember I did that because of your mentality, that drumline's mentality. I'm going, this will be the best thing these guys ever hear. They're going to hear that and they're going to say, we got this, because he was one of the best judges around, right? He was the guy who did finals, and he did it for us. And you guys played well, thank God. It worked. It was a good show. But yeah, I don't know if you remember, but at the end of that tape.
I do remember that, and I remember Joe Allison's tape, which was just him sort of, it's kind of a famous tape that has circulated of just him losing it. Yeah. And actually, I remember Kevin, this random 94 stories. I remember Kevin chewing us out at the Buffalo show, which was the show before finals, because we didn't, he didn't feel like we had played up to our, where we should have been at then. Yeah. And he was screaming and then like getting the scores, and we had put like a pretty good gap on whoever was in second that night. But that, what you guys did that year worked. you know, regardless of how, you know,
How much you guys love the new uniforms?
yeah, how sort of on board with it, because when you create something like that, when you create something that, I mean, at least was the basis for like the 90s, you know, that it's almost like we didn't know how to do that. We know what we liked, but we didn't know how to do that.
I remember certain things you guys were doing in '94 that I was, what are you guys doing? What is that? And I don't know who it was in the snare line, but he goes, no, man, it's tradition. And I go, who are you talking to? I go, was this a last year tradition that started last year? Because if it started before that, it's not tradition. I go, you're not doing that anymore. You know, and it was something stupid, taking your drums off. I don't know what it was, but it was just something really stupid. I'm going, what are you guys doing? Oh, it's tradition. I'm going, wait, stop. You don't know what, yeah. And that was, you know, what I was happy to do. Just to, you know, like I said, I came back home and, you know, we became the Blue Devils. Not that we had to become the Blue Devils again, but we brought the, you know, we got that swagger back, I guess.
And I'm gonna just one more random thing.
I got a random thing when you're done, so go ahead.
Troy Hall.
I love Troy.
Yes. You know what I'm gonna say?
Hey, Kevin Murray said the same thing.
Too many. There's too many stories.
You come out on the field at Mars with a girdle for him to wear, like a thing, because he was, you know, he was a big boy.
He was a big boy,
and his drum and we were
the drum angle,
and it would like swim while he marched. So you needed to sort of stabilize that area. And you brought out something for him to wear. Do you not remember this?
I do not remember this. I'm sure I did, but I do not remember this.
That's amazing. I was, you know, yeah.
How did that go over?
Yeah, are you just going to leave us with a cliffhanger?
No,
no.
I mean, he wore it. He had to wear it. I mean, it was like something that he wore from like then on. I don't know if he wore it all of tour. Oh yeah,
wow.
Yeah. It was something that he had to wear under. Yeah.
Was he happy about it?
No. But
you sure it wasn't like a one of those back belts? It wasn't a girdle. Don't say girdle.
Well, okay. So like whatever it was something to wrap around him to stabilize.
I don't know where to get a girdle.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever gotten a girdle in my life, but yeah, something to stabilize.
That's like something out of Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your random thing?
Okay, so my random thing before I forget, you're talking about tradition, talking about '94. Is there ever going to be a chance that we get to hear Robbie Bucks again? I'm sorry, I love that. You know, talk about
no, that's cool.
Tradition,
that's cool.
the super suits and everything.
Sure, I'll bring it back. Absolutely.
Oh,
we'll hear it again.
You're gonna see. You'll see me cry. And
I thought I killed the ditty years ago at PAS, Percussive Arts Society. We did a clinic with the drumline. I go, this is the last time we're ever going to play this, and we played the ditty. Then I brought it back, of course, you know, 5 years later, because everybody, come on, man.
Yeah, there's been enough time where I think Robbie Bucks would be cool for us old timers.
But I don't think we can get the attack on that fast count off.
If you add chugga to chugga in there, you got to add that spacing in between the 6 tuplets.
Oh, with the old school
spacing.
The space between.
You know, I was watching a video that was popped up the other day. It was 91. I think it was 91 Santa Clara or 92 Santa Clara. It was the same thing. I thought it was just a Blue Devil thing, but
oh no,
for whatever reasons, wherever was it, everybody then, or just wherever I was?
I think it was everybody.
Well, here's what I will say is that there's a video, because the other thing that happened in the years that when you went to Santa Clara is Mike French came to Blue Devils.
Correct.
And Mike was determined to get rid of that gap and to have us play the tempo that he counted off. So there is one video, because 93 wasn't necessarily a line that you were going to video a lot, but there was one video of us, like somebody was videoing Star Rehearsal, and then randomly in that video there's a video of us playing like triplet accent, like taps, flams, taps, drags, and
right.
And it was consistent. There was no gap, and it was the tempo that he counted off. So he was successul.
Hey, all I know is when we start back up, I'm gonna be there waiting to hear Robbie Bucks in the line.
Yeah.
I gotta call Robbie now. I gotta see if Robbie's got it written out.
I'll be there day one. I know it's written out somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll be there day one, waiting.
Here's a good story. Do you know that I taught Rob Surratt the ditty? So to me, it was a big deal because after I aged out, I marched in a float line that was local, and we did indoor drumline shows, and we did one show in Vegas. And Rob was like, "Hey, I don't know if you know who I am, but I march Blue Devils, and I just want to hang out with you." So he took me to In-N-Out Burger, and we went to a park, and he said, "Hey, teach me the ditty."
What year was this?
This was like 96.
Okay.
96 or 97. And to me, it was like I got a big kick out of that because he wrote Robbie Bucks.
Right.
And
I can't believe Robbie didn't know the ditty.
well, here's what's funny.
I'm going to call him about that.
What's funny is after I showed it to him, he was like, "Oh, that's it." And I'm like, "Yeah. What'd you think? That's it."
Oh, that's
I apologize that we were never able to get the interp right on those accented paradiddle diddles.
Paradiddle diddles?
Yeah. Yeah. People get it right now, but not when we were doing it.
Well, you look at, speaking of tempos,
Yep.
back in your era when we played the ditty, Roger kicked it off so fast
Oh yeah.
that after like 2 bars, it settled down to about 20 beats slower. Nowadays, you got that click track going, so the interpretation is a little more consistent nowadays because of the doctor beats. But back then, and all of a sudden,
And then the basses at the end would try to ramp up the tempo again, but that never worked. I remember for some reason people were talking about some of us from that line going back and playing the ditty for like an anniversary or something like that. And I remember Roger going, "No way. We're not going to be able to play it in tempo."
we never did.
We never did.
Yeah, play it like slow.
I remember, not to jump ahead too much, but 96, we did the ditty with Dave Weckl.
Yeah.
We did a clinic. It was an idea that Pete Emmons and myself had about getting all the California lines together for an indoor drum competition. This is pre-WGI regionals, right? And it was a color guard championship. And so it's like, well, let's just have them bring the drum lines. All the high schools bring your drum lines. We'll do a thing, and we'll do a Blue Devil clinic, and we'll get an artist. We were Yamaha and Remo at the time, and Vic Firth, and so it was Weckl. So I got a hold of Weckl, and I sent him a little mini disc. Matter of fact, you did a broadcast with your little mini disc.
Yep.
Yes, I remember recording. It could have been yours I used. I don't know.
Maybe.
I might have had one, but I recorded us playing the ditty, and I sent it to him along with the music, And he calls me up a couple weeks before the gig, and he goes, "Hey, man, so listen, I got that disc, so I'm checking it out, and I noticed you didn't write the snare sticking on the snare part." And I go, "Yeah, I didn't. You don't need the sticking." And he goes, "I thought you want me to stand in the snare line and play it with them."
Oh.
And I go, "Dude," first of all, I'm honored you're even thinking that, but no, man, I want you to sit behind your kit and just go crazy. And he goes, "Oh," and he used some other explicits that I won't say, but he goes, "Yeah, it's easy." And then he goes, "I also noticed they're taking liberty with tempos."
Oh yeah.
So that was the joke, 96, 97. "I noticed you're taking liberties with some of the tempos." I go, "Yeah, they're dragging."
Real quick about that Dave Weckl performance. This is the last Murray question, and it's not really a question. He just wanted to. I'll just read how he put it. He says, "Not really a question as much as a fun fact. In 1996, you put on a fantastic Blue Devil clinic at Cal State Hayward with guest artist Dave Weckl, where the finale was Weckl playing along with the ditty. The juxtaposition, a Murray word, of seeing Weckl's new ergonomic kit set up with tilted snare and rack toms against the drum line doing their thing is what gave us the idea at SEV to try tilting our snares. He said, I'm not sure that idea would have been born without being there at the clinic and seeing Weckl and the drumline on one stage."
Wow, no way. That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Fun fact. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what happened. I mean, we surrounded the drum set and went crazy. It was awesome. It brought tears to my eyes watching that, because I know how much the guys in the line worshipped Weckl.
Yep.
I mean, he was the man, right? I mean, you guys lived on, breathed every note he ever played. And just for him to be there, and when he was doing his clinic, watching the guys in the line sitting in the front row of the theater at Cal State Hayward, and they're just like, and they're air drumming the same stuff with him. And I'm going, this is awesome. This is like the coolest thing we've ever done. I thought it was such a cool thing.
I've always held the '94 snare line in high regard, and in our Facebook page a while back, we did a like greatest drumline of the '90s poll, and I went back and re-listened to a lot of the drumline stuff, and the 1997 line, I want to say overall as a line, that's it ranks up there with me as like probably one of the better lines.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I want to say, Scott, I remember you made a distinction once. You jumped into the conversation once online where you said, like in '94 we had a good snare line, but maybe it was '97 that was like a good drum line, like a really good battery, and I don't disagree.
Yeah. I mean, '94 the snare line was great. The tenors were average, and the bass line was fine, but it wasn't feature city with those other two sections pretty much. But '97 we had hands everywhere. It was like, it was a flashback to some of the '80s stuff that we did, where every section can play everything, and we used it. I mean, we definitely use our strengths, so we definitely wrote for it too. Yeah.
So speaking of the late '90s, as the late '90s progress, drumline scoring wise, lo and behold, SCV makes their push back, and who's at the helm are a couple former students of yours. How did that make you feel seeing them having the success at Vanguard?
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. It's. I mean, that's what it's about, right? And give it forward, whatever you want to call it. I mean, there was one year, and I couldn't even tell you which decade it was. I think it was the late '90s, maybe early 2000s. But the guys in the Blue Double Drumline did this and brought this to me. And out of the top 12 corps from that year, there was only one drum corps that didn't have somebody that was in one of my programs teaching the drum lines. And I went, what? And they named him off. I go, oh my God, and yeah, that was Murray and Jim, with Santa Clara that year. And the only line was the Paul Rennick line when he was, I think it was doing, I want to say Boston at that time. I could be wrong, but
maybe Crown.
It was, yeah, it could have been, but it was just, there was no Blue Devil or Vanguard influence from when I was doing it in that staff. But every other drum corps, the 11 out of the top 12, had somebody that came through the program. That's awesome. I mean, that's just the fact that they like it to keep doing it, that I didn't burn them out and said, I'm done with this activity. So that was cool.
Let me ask you something about teaching. And I have it written down here. You worked with Rick Odello, Float, and Ralph, and with all those guys, when you became the head person, what, if anything, did you take from each of those persons and incorporate into your teaching?
That's a great question. People always told me that when I was in front of the drum line and we're running music, that I looked like Rick Odello, tapping my foot, the way I would tap my heel, and the way I would look at the drum line and click sticks. That's what Rick used to do. They said, no, you're Rick. I never realized that till someone said that. But to me, one of the best compliments I got when I first took over '91 Santa Clara Vanguard was at the Concord Pavilion, which back then was a preview show before the season started with Blue Devils and Vanguard, and it was a great little standstill performance that everybody did. And so we're there with Vanguard, and we're going through our book. We're warming up before we go on for the sound check or whatever, so it's a rehearsal. And the Blue Devil guys are there, and Vern Johnson's there, who was one of my boys from the Blue Devils forever. And so he's checking everything out. And we finished with the book, and I go, all right, we're going inside. We got a couple of minutes to get on stage, blah, blah, And so I'm talking with Vern as the guys are moving. I go, what do you think? He goes, dude, it's like Blue Devil beats with Tom Hannum's speed and Vanguard's musicality. And I went, awesome. That's what I was going for. And seriously, I mean, I come from the float school, right? We did that together for many years. So we're going to play notes. We're going to play with flams. That's what we do. So that was definitely in the book. I learned so much from Ralph, about how to phrase things and how to move even through the ensemble between the voices and make it sound musical with dynamic shaping and this and that. And I always loved Hannum with the cadets, the fact that he would they were fast. I mean, when I think of those Hannum lines back in the early 80s, they were speed. Hands, feet. I mean, it was like, oh my God, they're fast. And it was all these fast bursts of just fast stuff. It's like, holy smokes. So I tried to literally do all of that in the '91 book. because that was my influences. So yeah, that was definitely, everybody had an influence on me, and that's kind of what formed the way I do things and the way I did things. Absolutely.
As as we get into the 2000s, the activity again, it seems like it again is switching with the Cavaliers and Cadets doing their thing around the turn of the century, tying. You know, uh, did you feel a need to switch things around that time?
Um, First of all, don't forget '99. That was one of my favorite drum lines. They didn't get the numbers at the end, but like I always say, it's not about the numbers. It's about how well we can get you guys to perform. And they were off the charts. If you see, here's some of the recordings from '99. If you get a chance, I haven't heard it in a long time, but I can't believe they didn't win. Seriously, I was like, what? How did that not win? Because they were so friggin' good. That was a really good percussion section, really good drum line. Um, yeah, but I always think that. I always think we need to win. I always think we need to do that. I mean, there was the gap in the percussion awards, from what, 97 to '07 for Blue Devils. It was 10 years before we won drums again. We changed drum companies, we had some changes on staff. It was funny because even the Nick Arcees today, the guys who teach with me now, they're shocked they're still here because apparently, and I didn't know this till someone pointed it out to me, if you're a snare tech in the Blue Devils, you last 6 years and then Scott fires you. And I remember when someone said, I go, what? And they go, yep. And they started naming them off. And I'm going, oh my God. You're right. And I had no idea. It wasn't, but it was pretty crazy. And so when Nick's 6th year came up, I remember him being real tentative and he's going, so are we okay? And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, well, this is year 6. I'm going, so? He goes, well, it's that time. And these guys obviously knew more about that than I ever even thought about it,
Yeah.
but it was real interesting.
How has Rudy been on staff for 13 years?
He's awesome. He's awesome. He's one of our main ensemble guys now. He runs the whole ensemble. He'll get upstairs and on the mic and run the whole ensemble, musical ensemble. And he's one of the, what you said about me about being one of the guys, and that's Rudy today. I mean, he knows the guys better than anybody. He's with them more. And they'll do anything for him, and he'll do anything for them. And he's one of them. And he still has that mentality and is a phenomenal teacher, phenomenal drummer. So, and, he's pretty experienced.
Oh yeah.
People ask about, the success of Blue Devils. How come it's so successful? And I go, well, the staff doesn't change that much, and I don't have a big staff. I don't have, the battery staff's 5 guys. That's it, and that's what it has been for a long time. And so they're getting the same information all the time. It's not, a different snare tech comes in for a week, then another guy, then another guy, then another guy, then another. I mean, I've never done it like that. I don't know how to do that. So I just don't want to do that. So I make sure the guys can do a nice long stretch if they have to. We still get some time off, obviously, because times are different, but it's pretty much the same information.
Let me ask you a couple things that we asked Tom Honks when he was on here. Are you a performance of the night type of guy for high percussion, or are you an average overall type of guy when it comes to high percussion for finals?
Back in the day, I was a Saturday night only. That's because there was more than one percussion judge.
And that was going to be the second part of my question was,
Yeah. We used to have 2 guys on the field, a guy upstairs, maybe 2 guys upstairs, ensemble GE, and that was part of the caption, right? So there was a lot of people making that decision. Since the activities changed, it's one guy making that call now. I want all 3 nights average because, and I know a lot of guys will tell you the same thing because I do it every year. The judging slates come out Wednesday. Okay, he's judging Thursday. This guy's judging Friday. This guy's judging Saturday. I go, okay, we're down 2/10 Thursday. We're up a 10th Friday, and then it might be a shootout on Saturday. You can predict what's going to happen before the show even starts, based on what's already happened during the season. You know, I was on the task force when we pushed through Percussion 2 back in the day. It was me, Mike McIntosh, and Neil Larrabee. And we created this Percussion 2 sheet, get a guy upstairs, and everyone's complaining about the drum judge running back and forth. He could stay back with the battery. He doesn't have to run through the forms. The guy upstairs can get whatever the guy on the field. I thought, and then let's double panel. The more judges, I think, the more fair it is for the performers. I've always believed that. And to have one guy make the call on Saturday night only, it depends on who you get. And I honestly mean that. I mean, it's, that's why I've always been an average guy. I've always been the average guy because I think it's more fair. More judges, the better, the more fair it can be, right?
Do you think there should be more than one judge for finals, or at least at the big
I
shows?
think there should be more than one judge for every show, but that's not going to happen financially. They can't afford that, unfortunately. So yeah, no, I mean, I'm kidding me. Give me 5 percussion judges. And I think because I watched the Tom interview, and I know Tom and I have talked, and we talked about this at the Congress when Neil and I were pushing through the percussion too. You can go anywhere in the world and see great brass performances. You can go anywhere in the world and see great dancers. The only time you're going to get this type of percussion, marching percussion at this level, is in drum corps. You know, Colleges get close, but it's not the same. It's not as detailed. The only place you're going to get that form of percussion is drum corps. And yet we only, we put it with all the other captions as far as how it's judged. And I get it. I understand why. But it's such a specialized art compared to the rest of the world, seriously, that I would want as many judges as possible. And I'll say that for every caption. My God, let's get 50 judges to do finals. The right group will win, because the averages will work out. Personal preferences won't be a big deal then, which I do think that happens now.